Hi, you're welcome once again. So this is my manual sewing machine. This is Citizen. So you could have butterfly, brother, two lion, and all like that. But this is basically Citizen. And some things I've found out in my years of using this machine, I'm just going to be showing you so that it can sew your back comfortably. There are sometimes I have issues with my sewing machine. I'm like, why is this machine not sewing? And I just realized, oh, some things are missing in it. That's why it is not sewing. So that could be yours as well. So first things first, I already made a video on how you can lift this up. So you can see that the distance between this, I don't know if you can see, should I remove this? Okay, so this is highly lifted such that anything that is thick, it can enter inside here. Like it's very, very, very lifted such that even thick things, double padded, 4 padded, 15 padded, would enter into here and, you know, sew comfortably. So it should, in case you're sewing and you realize that after sewing, this feed dog, that's this teeth, I'm sorry about that. So I realized that this teeth, the feed dog, is scratching your leather, and then it's probably because this is too downwards and it's too tight, so it's eating your leather up just to move it. So you want to lift this up a bit, and I have made a video about that. You loosen this panel and you move this up a bit. Okay, so those are one of the things that you do. Then your needle as well. So now this video is dedicated to this needle part. So let me drop this to this needle part, this metal holding the needle. You realize that it is the same one that comes here. So when this comes up, realize that you have more rod coming up here, and then when this needle goes down, realize that this also comes down as well. That means it is just one single rod that extends here. So now what I have found out is that if this needle, right, is supposed to come in here and pick thread from the shuttle. So if it is not getting to where it should pick thread, it's not going to sew. That's why you have your machine, it is jumping. You realize that it is jumping, you realize that it's not sewing, it's not picking thread, things like that. So you have to fix this. So sometimes you can shift your needle here. You can shift your needle from here and shift it downward, and just realize that this thing is still not working. Okay, it's still not picking thread from beneath. So what you want to do is that you want to bring this rod, you want to reduce the length of rod showing up here when it comes up, so that it enters more. You can see that this one enters. There are sometimes that when my needle enters through the shuttle here, this one does not go beyond here. Instead of entering like this, this is the least it comes. So I've noticed it for my own sewing machine. I know that for my needle to pick thread from the shuttle, this has to enter inside at the lowest stage. It has to enter inside. So once I realize that this thing is not entering inside, what I do is I sometimes I use hammer, but I do not advise that because it can break. So what you have to do is this. So just if your machine, this is if your machine is not picking thread, is not sewing, or is skipping thread, is jumping thread, that's how we call it. Let me show you an example of jumping thread. So this is an example of jumping thread. So you can see here, it didn't sew. This part did not sew. I was sewing, it did not sew. Can you see? Just keep the thread. That's part of jumping thread, but I would not count this as much of an issue because of course it's still quite a length. So a lot of length went it, so it's still fine. It's just that I have to go over this place again and sew. So these are the problems you face when you're using a manual sewing machine. So I just have to go over here and sew again. It does not mean that I have to effect it here. But in the case that this is frequent, before you sew 3 stitches, it has jumped. Before you sew 1 stitch, it has jumped. Or it's not even sewing at all. So that is when you have to do the settings to your sewing machine. So here it is, okay. So this hole here, this particular hole here, this big one, so there is I will not be able to show you here, but there is a way that when you bring this needle, you can set it till you find a screw. Yes, let me see if I can show you the screw. So okay, let me turn on the flashlights. Our battery too low. So inside here you will realize that there's a screw. So once the needle is at its lowest, that means this has entered, the needle is downwards, the screw becomes visible at this end. So you just use a small screwdriver. It could not be as much as this, but something that can enter here, and directly you screw it. So once you screw it, this becomes loose. Okay, but that's the step to take. So you loosen the screw, and then this becomes loose, and then you can shift this downwards. You can shift it downwards, or you can shift it up, depending on what you need to do. So if you shift it downwards, and by the time you wheel your sewing machine, you realize you are hearing sound like the needle is hitting the shuttle downwards, then that means you have to shift it up a bit. Your needle should not be hitting the shuttle downwards to the extent that you'll be hearing the sound. It's going to damage your needle. Okay, it's going to damage your needle. So once you've done it and it is balanced, you've done it, you are not hearing strange sound of the needle hitting the shuttle. And you know, you can put your thread to be sure that okay, it's already picking thread from the downward part, and then you screw it, you tighten it very well, because if you do not tighten it very well, by the time you are sewing your structured bag, the force is going to push this back up. So all the things that you said you've done is going to be in vain. So you have to tighten it very well, such that no force from this part can push this up again. So these are things that you need to do. If it is that your needle is hitting the shuttle, come here, adjust it, shift it up a bit. If it is that it is not picking thread from the shuttle, and you have tried adjusting the needle downwards, and it's still not picking thread, just come here, shift this rod, shift it down a bit, and that is it. So this works for my sewing machine, like let me say 80% of the time. By the time my machine is not sewing, it's not picking thread and all like that, I just already know where to go, and I just make fixes to it. I adjust it to the extent that I see changes and it starts to sew. So basically those are the settings that you need to do to your sewing machine. So in the next video, I'm going to be showing you how you oil your machine, because it is very essential that you are oiling your blackhead sewing machine. Okay, here, so how do you oil your sewing machine? This is very, very important, because number one, it reduces the noise and it helps in the friction of the moving parts, because it is basically iron, so it helps in the friction of the moving part. So for me, I nearly put oil in every hole that I find in my sewing machine, because of course many years counting, I still do not call engineer for my sewing machine, because it does not give me problems. I oil it almost every day, and on days when I forget, the next day. So when my sewing machine is refusing to sew as well, if it is not sewing, like I'm sewing, it's giving me issues, I oil it. So I just basically dedicate time, I oil every moving part. So this oil now goes to this stitch regulator, and you know, this part that moves the wheel, I also try and put oil and I run it. Yes, so I also try and put oil in this part that moves where the wheel moves. So I also put oil there. So I put oil here, so that as this one is going inside and it's coming up, there is oil coming in. And so this oil comes here and it drips. So when I'm sewing, sometimes I do not need to apply oil on my leather, because the oil dripping from here moisturizes my leather and it makes it go smoothly. So if you pour enough oil here, you may not need to be oiling your leather every time when you're sewing. So I don't even know why I put oil here, but I think I see people do it and I do it. But of course, it's still essential. So to this part of the sewing machine, very essential. So all these holes that you see, all these holes, I also put I put oil there, and I will, so that it takes in the oil. Then all these parts as well. So there's a part here, like a ball and socket. So I also put oil. This part where there are holes, I put oil. This part that moves against each other, like ball and socket, I put oil. I put oil here. All the moving parts, basically, I just put oil. As far as you are moving, I'm going to put oil in you, because I know that you're causing friction. So once you're done putting oil in all the moving parts that you can possibly see, another thing that I do is I bring this out. So the shuttle, and I don't know what it's called in English. So this, I clean it up. Okay, you see it's dusty, it has taken so many dust. So if you have brush, you can use your brush to pick out the dirt. And you have this, okay, so you have this. So just clean it up and apply your oil. I just basically apply oil everywhere. And of course, thank God for me, my sewing machine has not gotten to any engineer so far. I'm basically the engineer of my sewing machine, so that means I'm doing something that is right. I don't want to say I bought the right machine, thank God for grace to buy a good machine, but then So this part as well, I also oil it, also apply oil on this part, and on this as well, on the body. I apply oil on the body. I know you're going to move against something, you move around, so I'm going to apply oil on the body, make it very oily, and I'm going to fix it back. What am I doing? Okay, so remove this, please. While you are doing all of this, remove this, you don't need it. So I fixed this back. It's going to sit and lock. I don't know if this light is too much, or you can see what I'm doing. So let's have the light like that. So it's going to sit and lock, and I'm basically going to wear this. I don't know how your own is. I think it could be different. My 2 lion comes differently from this, but the setting is always the same. Then something has broken here, so I'm just using leather to pad it. So this is the situation of my own sewing machine. It's not as if my sewing machine is perfect, but it does the job quite well. And so oiling your sewing machine should be like what you do, the way you will be pouring oil on ogun. That's how you'll be pouring palm oil on ogun. That's how you'll be pouring oil on your sewing machine, because this is what brings your money. So dedicate time to giving it food and everything that it takes. So this one also goes back inside. So by the time you start to wheel your sewing machine after oiling it, you realize that the noise would reduce and you have done yourself good things. So clean it up, use brush, clean everything that needs to be cleaned, oil it again, oil all the moving parts, and voila, you're using your sewing machine. So basically, I hope that this helps your machine to be able to sew bags. And if there are other problems that you're facing with your sewing machine, drop it on the group. Sometimes you may need to contact an engineer, but try these ones first. It won't hurt your sewing machine. You can be able to sew clothes with it. I still sew clothes. In fact, I'm still going to slim fit clothes on this sewing machine this night. Don't tell anybody I told you. So it does not affect it sewing clothes. You're still going to sew clothes, right? Just that once you lift this up, once you lift this part up, that's the first this other setting that helps you to lift this up in order for heavy materials to enter inside here. So it's going to be that when you put clothes underneath it, it's not going to be firm. It's not going to hold the clothes to the machine firmly. That's just what is there. Then this plate is going to cut. My sister, this plate is going to cut. If you are using size 23 needle, this middle part where the needle enters through is going to cut. So be prepared for that. So when you want to sew clothes, just change this plate, sew your clothes, put your size 18 needle, sew your clothes. When you want to sew bag, change the plate to the broken plates. Don't go and be buying plate every time. I've not changed this plate now since I bought this sewing machine. That's 2020 February. I've not changed this plate. I've been using it like that and it has been working. So don't bother yourself about changing plates for your leather bag, but for your clothes, have a separate place for it. So I hope this helps you. Congratulations, and you take care. See you in class.